The family of Larry Bird is a complicated and twisted one, from losing his father in high school to Larry denying and ignoring his own biological daughter for years. This is the twisted story of Larry Bird's complex family life.
Larry Bird follows his own shot.
Larry Joe Bird was born on December 7th, 1956 to father Claude Joseph Bird and Georgia Nee Kearns, who were both of Irish, Native American, and Scottish descent. Claude Joseph Jr. was born on September 21st, 1926 in French Lick, Orange County, Indiana, USA. He grew up in an extended family, and while the community he grew up in was the poorest county in southern Indiana, his family suffered even more at the hands of poverty than the average person. But that didn't stop him from becoming an athlete as a teenager, even though he never played high school sports. He confined himself to what his little deprived neighborhood could offer until he enlisted in the United States Navy in 1944 at the age of 18. After seeing the war in the Pacific, he was pushed to join the US Army to fight in the Korean War in 1951. It was during this time he also married Georgia Kearns, and together they had 6 children, 5 boys and a girl. Now back home as a war veteran nursing traumatic events, he became a laborer in the Springs Valley. He was greatly liked by people who envied his fantastic use of his hand as furniture finisher, but unfortunately he was riddled with debts. But where or who could he turn to? His sons, who were passionate basketballers, were just that, passionate, but they were unemployed. And his wife, even with 2 jobs, earned a few dollars a week. So he stayed devoted to alcohol. This new addiction ensured that the paychecks rarely came home. But what about his sons playing for the varsity team in Spring Valley High School? Did he ever get the chance to see them? Well, Larry's father wasn't the best with crowds, and he had passed his shyness to Larry as well, actually. Larry revealed that his father was proud of his kids being ballers, but wouldn't want to see them play. But there is one little detail worthy of note here, which is best explained by the statement quoted from an interview with Larry himself. Quote, "There was one night when I had a heck of a game going. I had 30-something points in the first half, and people were thinking I was going to break the Orange County record. My dad was at home. He didn't go to many games. Well, my uncle called him in halftime and said, 'You'd better get down here. Your boy is going to do it tonight.' We didn't have no car, but he walked over. I ended up with 54 points and 38 rebounds." End quote. But as Larry still played in high school and the family still struggled to make ends meet, Bird and Georgia divorced, but it became even worse for the Bird family when Joe committed suicide on February 3rd, 1975 at the young age of 48. He is currently buried in Crystal Community Cemetery, Crystal, Dubois County, Indiana. Georgia Kearns was born on June 2nd, 1930 to parents Elizabeth Noble and John Riley Kearns. Georgia is said to be the tallest among all her siblings and had married Joe when she was 21 years old. She had also been raised in a pretty poor background and basically raised her 6 kids by working 2 odd jobs, bringing in a measly $100 every week. Larry confirmed it once when he said, quote, "I remember she worked 100 hours a week and made $100 and then went to the store and had to buy $120 worth of food. If there was a payment to the bank due and we needed shoes, she'd get the shoes and then deal with them guys at the bank. I don't mean she wouldn't pay the bank, but the children always came first." End quote. But she always had help from her mother also, Elizabeth, who is said to have loved Larry the most. Larry also spent more time at his grandmother's house than he did his own. Georgia continued to struggle with her family even after the divorce and would move the family from one house to another due to a failure to pay rent. However, when Larry became a pro basketballer, he built his mother a new house. But it wasn't anything extravagant, just homey enough with a satellite dish and a basketball court. Larry loves it here better than anywhere else, but even with all the millions her son soon started accumulating, Georgia continued to work, and her son even encouraged her to do so, especially in the early stages of his professional career. Quote, "Larry thinks I should work," she declared. "He believes everyone should work. That's how he got to be such a good player. My kids were made fun of for the way they dressed. Neighbor boys had basketballs or bikes. My kids had to share a basketball. A friend of Larry's would say, 'If you can outrun me down to the post office, you can ride my bike for 10 minutes. Larry used to run his tail end off." End quote. But on October 8th, 1996, aged only 66 years old, Georgia died after suffering from Lou Gehrig's disease. She rests in the same cemetery as her husband. Larry has 5 siblings. Mike is the eldest. Mark and Linda come after Mike, but before Larry, and then there are 2 other boys born after Larry, Jeff and Eddie. Not much is known about his siblings, but I was able to dig up a few things about them. The second son of Georgia and Joe Bird, Mark Bird, was one of Larry's inspirations growing up. He was the one who first wore the number 33 when he played basketball for Springs Valley High. Larry, like his father, was too timid to watch him play in school, so Mark and Mike taught him softball and basketball at home. But Mark did not pursue a career in basketball like Larry did. He graduated from Oakland City College with a bachelor's degree in business administration and physical education in 1989. He married Brenda, and together they have 2 children, Elizabeth and Joey. These days, Mark is a politician. For 12 years, he served as a Virgo council. When he later decided to be a mayor of Terre Haute, he lost to the in-office mayor Duke Bennett. This was in 2015, and Mark had cited his battle with cancer as a hindrance to his complete dedication to the political race. After that loss, not much has been heard about him since. Eddie Bird is Larry's youngest brother and the only one that followed in the footsteps of his elder brother. When he was a 5th grader, Eddie boasted that he was going to be a better baller than his brother. Eddie once revealed that Larry said, "Don't worry about what other people say, just go and play basketball." And it looked like he was getting there when he surpassed the record held by a NBA legend. He broke his high school record by scoring more goals than Larry did for Springs Valley. Larry had scored 1,125 points, Eddie scored 1,172. Eddie later went on to play for Indiana State University, the same college that Larry had gone to, but this time around, he fell behind his older brother's records. So Larry later spoke about his brother who was in college struggling to find himself. Quote, "High school ball is like the lowest grade. If you were a good player, then it doesn't necessarily mean you were going to be a great player in college. With his work ethic, he's got a lot to learn, and he is going to find that the hard way." Eddie was accused of playing like his brother, but he was never able to meet up to his standard. After a while, he declared that he wasn't going to be a pro basketballer, but instead pursue a career in baseball, and that was the last we would hear of him. The only girl amongst 5 boys, Linda must have been loved dearly. She is also a very secretive person when it comes to sharing her personal information with the world, but we do know that she was married to Benjamin Campbell and had 2 children, Benji and John, with him. However, they divorced and later were in the headlines. Benjamin had filed a terroristic threat charge against Mark, Linda, and Larry. Benjamin had decried not being able to see his kids and then getting threatening phone calls from the Birds. But the case was closed and Linda got married to another man, one Mr. Goner, and we didn't hear from her since. Like the rest of her siblings, she too has continued to maintain a low media profile. But as far as Larry's own family is concerned, this is how he managed to raise his own. Janet Condra was the first woman Larry was romantically involved with. Her exact date of birth and parental info are not known, but she did attend the same school as Bird in Indiana. As established before, he was not a social success and didn't do well with girls. However, on November 8, 1975, following the death of his father, he surprisingly married Janet when he was just 19 years old. But their marriage was filled with a lot of rifts, and within a year, it ended. It was later discovered that Linda was pregnant with Bird. They were not on speaking terms when their daughter Corey was born in 1977. Bird initially denied her being his child, but a DNA test confirmed that she was his. Bird wouldn't reach out to her still, and he only agreed to set up an account for the kid where the mother could withdraw money from. Janet spoke on Oprah Winfrey's show about how she had to make excuses when her daughter grew up. "When she was little, I made excuses. I couldn't protect her from the hurt caused by her dad. I could protect her from everything else, but not that." But Bird was really hurt about his decision to marry when he did. He regretted the situation with remorse, and he had said, quote, "When I was a kid, I thought people who got divorced were the devil, and then I go out and do it myself right away. Getting married was the worst mistake I ever made. Everything that ever happened to me, I've learned from it, but I'm still scarred by that. That scarred me for life. That and being broke are the 2 things that influenced me most. Still." End quote. But luckily for him, he met someone more fitting for his heart and career. Dina Mattingly was born on November 16, 1954 in Indiana. She graduated with a marketing major from Indiana State University. Larry and Dina started seeing each other in the early 1980s, and Larry immediately fell in love with her, especially with how she supported him and his career. Like when he said, quote, "And Dina was with me through all that stuff. She was there. I don't know how many times that poor girl stood under the basket and passed the ball back to me, over and over, standing there, throwing it back to me so I could shoot, and then all the time taking care of my injuries." End quote. He proposed to her in a very weird way. When they were driving in his car, he brought out a ring and said, "You can wear this if you want to." They were wedded in 1989 on October 31st after his separation from his first wife 13 years prior. The couple adopted 2 children, Connor and Mariah. After Corey's birth, communication between child and father was impossible. The kid looked like her dad physically. She was tall and had the same sandy blonde hair and nose. She played basketball and wore the number 33 and had a lot of Celtics memorabilia, including her father's pictures on the walls of her room. She also attended her father's former university in Indiana, but the communication was still not established. In 1998, the Baltimore Sun, referencing the Worcester Telegram, revealed Corey's dilemma with her father. She was 15 years old at the time and had complained about her father not reaching out to her. She also said she had asked her father to be at his retirement event in 1993 but got no reply. Then, on the Oprah Winfrey Show, Oprah asked when it was still hard for her to move on after 20 years without her father, and she said that she had moved on but still hopes she can be a part of his life. She never really gave up on trying to reach out to her dad. She was happy when he took the job to coach the Indiana Pacers because she felt he wanted to be closer to his home, and maybe there was a chance he wanted to patch things up with his old life. But like Corey said, quote, "I went to see the Pacers play earlier this season, and I went down to talk to Dina, Bird's wife, and see their kids," she said. "He looked over and saw me holding Bird's daughter, Mariah, but he just kind of smiled awkwardly. I didn't get to talk to him, though," end quote. But one day, she got a chance to see a game with Larry alone after Dina provided 2 tickets for father and daughter. She later happily said, quote, "Dad seemed interested in what I had to say. He walked me to my car and he hugged me. I hope I can see more of him now." End quote. In his defense, Bird wrote in his autobiography, quote, "I can't honestly say I've had that much to do with her life because of my differences with Janet. I think about Corey all the time, but what can I really do now? I can't go back and relive the first 5 or 6 years of her life. Corey is a fine and beautiful young lady. Her mother has done a great job bringing her up in the best way possible. Corey is also very athletic. She's good at everything she does, and I'm really proud of her. To tell you the truth, I've never really known how to handle this situation, but I love her, and anytime Corey needs anything, I will be there for her." Mariah is Bird's adopted daughter. She was a cheerleader for a while, and she graduated from Boston University with a degree in science and recreation, and currently works as an events manager at Pacers Sports and Entertainment. She leads a very private life, and not much is known about her. Connor Bird is the adopted son of Larry and his wife, and he too leads a private life, but his privacy was breached in 2013 when he got into a mix-up with the law. He was arrested for allegedly attempting to kill his ex-girlfriend by running her over after they had an argument. He was 21 years old at the time and was also accused of possessing marijuana and carrying a deadly weapon, but the charges were soon dropped following a lack of evidence. Enjoyed this family video? Then check out our other videos on the family of famous basketball stars.